Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you spending your morning with us on this beautiful sunny Thursday. We will get started in just a moment, giving some time for our friends and colleagues to get signed in. So would love to encourage you to use the chat function to introduce yourself this morning. Um, Welcome to the Industry Partnerships Monthly webinar for June. We are excited to celebrate the Juneteenth holiday, and hence why our webinar is on Wednesday instead of Thursday for this month. We're our office will be closed in recognition and celebration of the Juneteenth holiday. But if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, let us know your name, organization you're with, and what part of the state you're in. Maybe that's a county or city. All right. We'll get started with today's agenda. We're going to switch up the order of slides a little bit. So if you are familiar with our webinar, this won't be a big change, but just changing up how we deliver some of the information. We'll give a quick introduction to who CareerRise is, what we are, what we do. We'll have a partner welcome this morning, as well as a special message. Then we'll have a presentation from our colleague at Bright Horizons about supporting caregivers at work. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of Deedee's presentation. We'll have some updates from the CareerRise team, and then wrap up and get you out of here by 12 o'clock. So again, welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome back if you have joined us before. For those of you who are new, a little bit about CareerRise. We're a nonprofit organization based in Atlanta. We have been operating for around 13 years now, starting off as a small initiative within the United Way of Greater Atlanta, and became our own freestanding nonprofit January of last year. Our mission is to advance economic mobility and regional prosperity by creating and strengthening partnerships that meet employer needs for skilled talent and connect Metro Atlanta residents to sustainable wage careers, which is to say that we are right here in the middle of the fight with all of our other workforce development partners, helping create connections between employers and the skilled, talented workers that are out in our community. We want to connect those workers to high quality jobs. So our vision is that Metro Atlanta will be a strong, thriving, and equitable community with skilled employees connected to good jobs. So CareerRise has three programmatic areas. Those are Westside Works, the Opportunity Access Network, and the Industry Partnerships team. So Industry Partnerships is who is bringing the webinar series to you. So I'll tell you a little bit about us. What we do is make workforce development easier for employers and those who support them. We know that navigating the world of workforce development can be really challenging. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of organizations, a lot of different programs and services that employers can tap into. So we want to help make it easy to navigate through this system and to tap into things that are beneficial for businesses to engage in the workforce development space. We create alignment and drive toward common goals. So we know that just because two businesses are competing for the same talent pool doesn't mean that they can't collaborate on expanding that talent pool or addressing common issues that are shared in an industry or in a geographic area. So we help create alignment and drive toward those common goals. And we build capacity and provide support through low risk programming. And what we mean by that is many of the programs and services that CareerRise offers to employers have a very low barrier to entry. We offer many services at no cost, thanks to our grant funding, or very low cost. Most of the time, what we're asking for is just your time and your commitment. So that's what we say when we mean low risk programming. And a couple of examples of that we have going on right now. our improving career navigation in healthcare project that we're involved in with Emory Healthcare and Elevance Health. Uh, no charge to them, but we're providing them with technical assistance to develop career navigation structures in their companies so that their workers can find a pathway to higher wage jobs within those companies and boost retention. So just one example of how we provide support through low-risk programming. This webinar series is a space for us to provide innovative and practical ideas, tools, and resources to empower employers so that you can do your job better and more easily. We focus on 5 sort of themes as it comes to supporting employers with their workforce development needs, things that we see are common across all businesses, regardless of industry, geography, or size. Essentially, these 5 strategies reflect what every business needs to operate in its workforce. So first, hiring, candidate sourcing, and workforce planning is all about finding people right now and planning for hiring in the future. Training and registered apprenticeships is about having workers with the right skills and the programs and pathways that we can create to develop those skills amongst those workers. Employment success support is what we'll be talking about today. And that's about removing the barriers that prevent people from achieving or maintaining their employment. So we'll hear a little bit about childcare as one of those barriers, or caregiving as one of those barriers later. Quality careers and workplaces is about creating the kinds of jobs that people want to work for and want to stay in. And then career awareness and promotion is about teaching our future workforce, our young people, about the high demand industries and careers right here in their backyard in the Metro Atlanta region, so that we can encourage them to filter into those pathways and really support the economy and their own economic mobility. Uh, Before we have our partner welcome this morning, I wanted to take a moment and recognize one of my colleagues, Mr. Robert Davis. Mr. Davis is the Director of WorkSource DeKalb and recently announced his retirement. Mr. Davis will be retiring at the end of June, and just wanted to take a moment to celebrate his career. Mr. Davis's career has spanned the military, finance, economic development, and workforce innovation. He began his professional journey in the U.S. Air Force, where he served with honor for 26 years, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. His time there shaped his strong leadership values and commitment to mission-focused excellence. After his military career, Rob transitioned into civilian leadership, taking on roles in financial services, leading business retention and expansion efforts in Savannah, and supporting workforce and outreach programs in Washington, D.C. Mr. Davis is well known for being strategic, results-driven, and people-centered. Every step of the way, he's brought a mission-driven approach to improving systems and serving others. In 2019, he joined WorkSource DeKalb as Deputy Director, and in 2022, he was appointed the Interim Director, where he has overseen a $5 million WIOA budget and led programs that serve over 800 job seekers and employers each year. Mr. Davis's impact in DeKalb County is both measurable and meaningful. He's supported more than 1,500 residents directly in finding career pathways and worked with over 300 local businesses to fill jobs and grow talent pipelines. He launched the Mobile Career Center, bringing resources directly to our communities, reaching over 1,100 residents at events across the county. Mr. Davis, as always, has shown smart fiscal leadership by reallocating $500,000 in federal funds to meet the changing needs of our local workforce. And he's also helped expand both youth and adult training programs, opening doors for people of all ages to gain skills and access opportunity. Beyond the numbers, Mr. Davis has built strong relationships and partnerships with leaders across government, business, and community organizations, led and inspired a staff of more than 35 people, modeling integrity, compassion, and commitment every day. Mr. Davis, his legacy of service, innovation, and impact will continue to shape DeKalb's workforce system for years to come, and we congratulate him on his well-deserved retirement. Next, it's my honor to welcome Ann Kramer, a CareerRise board member and a workforce champion. Ann, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, great. Nate, thank you so much. And to you, Mr. Davis, congratulations. You are the icon, the epitome of what it means to be a wonderful public servant. Congratulations, but most sending you so much gratitude. Congratulations. And Nate, this is one of my favorite subjects. I can't believe I get to be the partner welcome for this particular topic, which is supporting parents, caregivers of any kind within the purview of to create a strong, wonderful workforce. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And before I do want to just sort of underscore that Nate gave you a wonderful picture of who and what CareerRise is. But I want to tell you why I love CareerRise. CareerRise is much more than an organization that's supporting the workforce and creating a dynamic area so that Georgia can not only be number one for business, but number one for people. Because for years, we've looked at what we would call some silos of those that are preparing and training people, those that are trying to recruit the people called the employers, and all the people that we know that have either unemployed, underemployed, or want to seek new opportunities. And with CareerWise, we finally have a place that's within a collaborative where we have all the people at the table. We have those that are employing through chambers and corporations and those that are actually creating the jobs who can articulate what it is they need, the skills required for the work. And they can describe that to those of us that are working in the workforce arena that are preparing people, whether it's like you, Q with Westside Works, or the Goodwill, or all of our TCSG colleagues and friends, our university systems, our higher eds, and K-12 and our career and technology organization, so that we can begin to know what the employer wants, prepare people with the skills they need, and oh, by the way, bringing those people who need and want those jobs to the table. So CareerRise has all of those functions, those sectors, not just in silos, but in parallel paths, knowing what they can do best to bring and build this best workforce to the state of Georgia. And then we say, in order to do it, is how do we support those people? And I have one of those cute secrets, Deedee, that Bright Horizons was one of IBM's partners when the American Business Collaborative put together, the idea of why don't we have early learning centers near workplaces so that employers and employees can find safe, quality places for their children so that then can focus on work at the workplace. What a simple idea. So IBM was one of the first companies that was investing with Bright Horizons and other companies to build early learning centers that were convenient to the workplace. But that's only the first start, that we know that it's so important that we have those quality rated early learning centers for little people. But we also need those out of school places when it's the summer, like now. Or we need those support for caregivers that have our elder care. They have those that have disabilities, those that are ill for periodic times. And how do companies begin to look for the kind of support mechanisms that really make it a best place to work? I'm so proud that CareerRise, our chair, Beth Lowry, who's at Holder, has found ways to provide some of that early learning support for a lot of the construction workers that are coming at odd hours of the day or night and having to work and having no place to leave their children, and thus not able to work. And even today, and I am aware that this may sound a little political, but I do want all of us to understand the impact that's going to occur if Head Start is reduced, or if SNAP or CHIP are reduced, or the opportunity for the out of school and after school for our children is reduced. So those budgets need to be considered to be included in the new budget, because we know that it impacts workers at all levels, those that are in the field and agriculture, those that are in the factories and those that are in the tall buildings that we would call white collar workers. We all need support. And so with that, that's why I'm so proud of CareerRise, because we're bringing you, those folks that are throughout the state, through our workforce investment boards, through our TCSG colleges and institutions, through all of the organizations that work with people in communities who need and want the jobs. And it's through CareerRise that we see that symbiotic relationship among the sectors, the employers who have the jobs, the preparers who can train people to be ready for the work, and finding those who are either un or underemployed or simply want to have an improved skill to be ready for life and work, so they too can prepare for their families and have, as we would like to say in the city of Atlanta, the best place to raise a family where all families can thrive. And so to you, Nate, I thank you so much for letting me come and be a representative of our CareerRise board, but even more of that whole idea of how do we create spaces within our state where all families can thrive, all people are prepared for life and work. And back to you, Deedee, too. I'm so happy to have a colleague from Bright Horizon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anne. And I'm glad to hear that you were so pleased to be picked for this particular webinar, because I don't know, something inside me just said that you were the right person for this. I don't know, it might have been the stars or something was telling me that.
It's serendipity. Nate, we
Serendipity
always call it serendipity.
with a capital S.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Anne. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Deedee Johnson, the Director of Client Services with Bright Horizons. I had the pleasure of seeing Ms. Johnson present at the Georgia's Workforce Conference last fall, and knew that she was just the right person to present this information today. So Deedee, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Nate and Cherie and the board, for the invitation today. I appreciate the opportunity. And Anne, thank you for the shout out. You're right. IBM's a longtime partner of Bright Horizons, and we love our partners. So thank you so much for that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about who Bright Horizons is. So just give you a little bit of company background for any of you that are not familiar with Bright Horizons. We're also going to share a little bit of statistics so that you have an idea of what it looks like from a childcare perspective right now, not only from a national perspective, but also for the state of Georgia. We're also going to talk about different types of family care solutions. Anne touched on those. So we've really got the whole care spectrum today, not only young children, but all the way to perhaps aging parents that you're helping to take care for. And any one of those, if there's any type of gap in care, it creates a struggle. So we're going to talk about how we handle that. What are things that we can do to really have an impact with care supports? And then as Nate shared, we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So first, let's get started. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Bright Horizons. Won't spend a lot of time. I'm not going to read the slides, but just so you know, we've been in business for over 40 years. And so we like to say that from an experience perspective, we get it. And we understand the importance of the care that we're providing because we are the actual caregivers. So when you come to Bright Horizons, it's our employees that are going to be providing the care, or it's specific contracted employees that we're working with that have had to meet our quality standards and our background checks in order to provide that care. And so we're going to talk about that spectrum today, but just know that when we enter into that relationship, we know we're caring for some of your most prized possessions, whether it's your young child or whether it's your mom or dad. And so we want to make sure that you feel that love and concern. We really put the money behind that with the highest liability protection in the industry. So for the care that we provide, Bright Horizons completely stands behind that. And then you'll see a little bit about how we've continued to evolve. And so when you look at Bright Horizons, we started out as community centers, and that was really what we provided. So there were branded Bright Horizons child care centers all across the U.S. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we've continued to grow. And that's really been based on our clients providing feedback. And then lastly, we're just going to talk a little bit about the support that we provide, just so you understand how we're here to kind of hold your hand through the process. So let's look at the stats for a little bit. This was a recent survey that was done by the Surgeon General. And what they did was they went back and looked at a survey that they did in 1985. So we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine. Some of you all may not have even been born by then. And then we're going to take a look at what it looks like today. And specifically what they were looking at was how much time parents were spending caring for children. And you'll see among mothers, that's increased 40% over that time frame. But the big number there is it's increased 154% for fathers. So there's definitely a growing need for support for mothers and fathers, and really for any type of parent that's trying to care for these children. And touched on not only when you've got young children that are in childcare centers, but also when school's out. How do we help, kind of support those young folks? You'll also see what's interesting is, and this is actually a survey that was done by Bright Horizons. We survey all of the employees that take advantage of our benefits. And there's millions of those across the globe. And you'll see that employees that have family care benefits are 40% less likely to leave their jobs. So it's definitely one of those, what we call sticky benefits. It's one of those things that really makes a lasting difference with your employees. So I'm going to touch on just a minute in the recent, not too recent or not too distant future, I guess, or distant past, excuse me, when we were coming out of COVID. And so we knew that COVID just had such a major impact on the care that was being provided. We went through a process where most child care centers were closed across the US. There were new healthcare restrictions, new health and safety restrictions that were put into place, new ratios for classrooms. From a Bright Horizons perspective, the good news is that we operate based on NAEYC, which is the highest standard in the US. That stands for the National Association for the Education of Young Children. So we were already operating on those ratios. We also had very stringent health and safety rules in place. And we kind of got a heads up because we actually operate child care centers for many government entities across the US. So we were able to get our centers back up and running within a couple of weeks so that we could be there for those employees. The importance of that is we also support a lot of healthcare industry. And so we knew we definitely needed those folks back at work. And so we were able to do that during that time. But what's interesting, coming out of COVID, over 30% of child care centers closed. They just financially could not make it anymore. So what was already kind of a dwindling number shrunk even more in regards to the amount of care that was out there. Now we've seen about 75% of employers have come back with some type of a return to office or return to campus policy. Now, obviously, we knew that if you're a frontline worker like healthcare, you didn't have a choice, right? We needed you there at the hospital, or we needed you in the factory if you're manufacturing. So, but for those that were on campuses, we've now seen the majority of those return to campus. And so even more important that we've got enough childcare out there. And this shows you the growing need. 60% of millennial and Gen Z employees see the childcare benefit as such a huge bonus for them. So it's something they're definitely looking for as part of their benefits package. So the next slide tells you a little bit about the three areas that we're going to focus on. We call it the childcare trilemma. And so those three challenges are availability, affordability, and quality. So first of all, is there available childcare? That's the first thing. The second one, is it affordable? So if I can find childcare, is it affordable for my family? And then that third one is quality. So if I can find it and I can afford it, is it the quality that my family's looking for? And so we're going to look at what that means, not only from a national perspective, but also specifically for the state of Georgia. So if you look on the left-hand side, those are just some of the stats from a national perspective. About 40% of families today are on child care wait list with an average wait of 6 months. Most parents that are having an infant will actually age off the wait list before their child ever makes it into the child care center. So obviously that's disturbing and really tough, and definitely impacts those new moms that may be trying to return to the workforce because they simply may not be able to find a space for their child. From an affordability perspective, 6 in 10 parents said they would work full-time if they could switch, or they would switch from part-time and work full-time if they could actually find that affordable childcare. So again, we've got folks willing to work, but just can't find the childcare to support a full-time job. And then lastly, from a national perspective, less than 10% of the childcare centers in the US meet that national high quality standard. So we've definitely seen that to be a growing interest among parents to really be able to fill that gap. Now, if you look on the right-hand side for the state of Georgia, 44% of families live in a childcare desert. So that just means in the state of Georgia, almost half the families are in an area where there just are not a lot of childcare centers, whether an actual center itself or in-home care, or being able to find some type of a babysitter service. So that's definitely impacted folks' ability to be able to work. The next one talks about what the cost is. So for a two-parent family currently in the state of Georgia, it takes about almost 30% of their annual income to pay for childcare. In the city of Atlanta right now, the going rate for an infant is $2,000 a month. That's more than some families' mortgage payments. So you can imagine the strain that that puts on families as they're trying to figure out. And especially if it's a two-parent family, sometimes that it becomes the deciding factor whether one of those parents just stays home to watch the children because they simply can't make enough to be able to afford that child care. And then when you see what that equates to dollars, so this is for the state of Georgia only, 3.6 billion is the estimated annual economic impact. So it's definitely impacting our companies, the ability for us to bring in the revenue, to have the productivity we need, and especially in the state of Georgia. So definitely something that we've seen more and more companies step up to the plate to help solve that issue. And I will tell you, you're in a great state to do that. And we're going to talk about how. So this next slide just gives you an idea of all the different services we provide. We're just going to touch on two today, but just know that as we've grown our business, we've actually done that listening to our clients. So we started out as child care centers, as I mentioned, community centers all across the US, branded as Bright Horizons. Then we had companies approach us and say, you know what, that's great, but I think I want one just for my employees, as Anne suggested with IBM. And so we went out and started employer-sponsored centers. So these are typically on-site or near-site for most employers. And we operate those centers very customized to meet their needs. So that may mean hours, it may mean how many classrooms there are, and those are typically branded for those employers. So for example, we operate the Jeanette Cathy Children's Learning Center, which is on the Chick-fil-A campus. So it's branded as Jeanette Cathy Center. We also operate the Little Apron for Home Depot. And so there's just a host of different companies that have really heard the call, they've listened to their employees, and they've stepped up to provide that type of care. But we also know that there's employers that have very dispersed workforces. And so while having a child care center definitely helps support a group focused in one area, they may have employees in other states, other cities that need help too. And so that was how we created backup care and enhanced family support. So it basically opens up a whole plethora of centers that folks can take advantage of across the US. And then you'll see we've added elder care. So for folks that are looking at perhaps putting an elder loved one in some type of assisted living and kind of helping them with that process, what that assessment looks like, and then providing financial and legal coaching. And then from there, we have a sister organization called Ed Assist, and they provide workforce education as well as student loan support and college coach. So that just gives you an idea of the different benefits that we offer. Many of our clients take advantage of all, some take advantage of some, take advantage of one. So definitely something that we know that we've got a custom solution that can be created. But today we're just going to focus on the backup care and enhanced family supports initially. And on this next slide, you'll see it really goes into detail what's available. So if you look at that far left, we have almost 3,500 child care centers across the US. And so it opens up that network of centers to any of the employees that are a part of this program, thanks to their employer supporting them. So they're able to look at care for those individuals. They're able to look at summer camp programs. They're also able to look at in-home caregivers for children and adults. And we call this backup care because it's meant to fill a gap. It's meant to fill in Let's say you wake up one morning, your child's running a fever because they've got an ear infection. They can't go to their normal care for the day. So you could actually have a caregiver come to your home and watch that child for the day. Or perhaps your mom normally watches your child and she's already told you she's on vacation for a week. So you can take your child to a center for that week and fill in that gap of care. So it's just as it sounds, it's backup care that's available at your fingertips, either through our call center, using our website, or there's an easy mobile app, and you just go in and book the care. You get a reservation and a confirmation, and then you're all set for the care for that day. Because we have a call center, we can actually fill these at night. So if you get that dreaded phone call at midnight with your caregiver saying, I'm sick, I can't help you tomorrow, you can easily find care and be ready to go the next morning. So that is a lifesaver for so many families. And then also, we got feedback from our employers that some of their employees live in very remote areas where there just are not centers. So they asked us to offer up reimbursement care so they can find their own care, either through a neighbor, friend, family member, and we'll actually reimburse them for that care so that they can still feel like they're part of the program. The next offering that was made available really came out of COVID because so many of the children fell behind when they went to virtual schooling, or schooling just was not happening at all. And so with our virtual tutoring and camps, we're able to provide tutoring all the way from kindergarten up through college courses. It could be something as broad as my third grader needs homework help, to something as specific as my sophomore in college is now taking statistics and I have no clue to help them. Can you give me a tutor that covers that? So it's a great way to really bolster your employees. We've even heard great success stories where some of the employees have decided to go back to school for a degree. So they've been able to take advantage of the tutoring as well. And then we also include virtual camps. So for children 3 to 12, there are different opportunities online. So maybe it's spring break and you all are doing a staycation, you're working from home. You can actually get your child set up with some fun classes that they can take, arts and crafts, coding, fitness, whatever it may be, instead of them sitting in front of the television or gaming all week. So it's a great opportunity to have a good learning experience. And then that last one, pet care, that actually came as a big recommendation from several employers. So they tested it for us. So we now offer pet care as well through Rover and WAG. And I will give you a hint. We've got a new service that's coming into third quarter. We're going to be able to provide adult daycare. So we'll be able to provide transportation to pick up those elder loved ones, take them to the daycare for the day, and then bring them back home. We know that the effects of COVID and the years after have been really rough, where folks have become very isolated and just haven't been able to be out as much with others. So this is a great opportunity for their own mental wellness to be able to get out and participate in programs, have fun with others, and be able to do that in a very easy process. So these are just some great benefits that are part of that backup care. And then this next slide just touches on some of those discounts that are available. So I won't go into great detail, but these are just some of the ongoing. So perhaps you're looking for full-time care. So you're able to take advantage of our center networks, and you can actually get a discount of up to 10% on tuition for finding full-time care in any of those centers. You can also continue with academic support and all types of parenting resources as well. And these are available at your fingertips. So the employer makes this available to the employees where they have access at no charge, and then the employees actually pay for these services themselves. So one of our great partners is Southern Company, which we all know is Georgia Power in our state. And they take advantage of pretty much all of our services. They have 2 childcare centers with us. And then they also offer all of our backup care and elder care and college coach programs. And so there's no one better to tell the story than them themselves. So Cherie, let's hear from them.
Number one, we're an electric utility. So when we have weather events, we show up. We shine the brightest when the lights are out.
Having a child care center that understood the needs of the business and aligned the schedule of the operations with the business has been extremely beneficial to me.
So we spent a lot of time meeting with employees and found that this was something that helped both men and women as we were looking to increase retention at the company and also really have it as a recruitment tool to say, Georgia Power is focused on you and your family.
I think having access to the childcare helps Georgia Power recruit talent just for the well-being component. The knowing that Georgia Power not only says that they're family focused and promote work-life balance, but they have avenues and opportunities to actually walk the walk.
It gives me time to actually focus on work. Having a 2-year-old at home and on the phone and trying to work is very difficult.
It lets me focus on the other part of my day job, and that's being, present and being there for my team at Georgia Power. So really, to answer that, I get to be fully present at my Georgia Power job.
It gives me space to do my job without worrying about who's taking care of my children. I've been able to participate in work activities that I wouldn't have had access to if I didn't have someone that I trusted to watch my children. With women having access to the child care, it shows that Georgia Power is diverse. That lets me know that they think about me, they value me, not only as an employee, but also as a woman and a mother as well.
As we talk to new hires and we highlight the different perks and benefits from a 401k standpoint to the medical benefits that come with employment here, we also highlight the benefits of having a child care center right next door. And for those that have children or those that are thinking about having children, that resonates with them, resonates and leads to ultimate either retention or ultimately recruiting.
We were focused on you and keeping you as an employee here long term. The Child Care Centers to me is probably the best sales tool that we have to show that.
Number one, we're
So that's a great segue into our employer-sponsored child care centers. And really, when we look at that, I mentioned to you, we do surveys of all of our employees that are utilizing our services. And this is specifically one that's sent out to the parents that are at our child care centers. And we asked them, what's the impact of having that child care center? 89% said it improves their productivity so that they're able to work the hours they need to for their job. 88% says it improves their well-being and really reduces the stress that they have. And then 88% say this is a major retention tool for them, that this really makes them see their employer as a great place to work. And so I think those are all key areas that employers are focused on today. And when you look at the centers themselves, there's really 6 areas that we focus on. And we bring in a consulting team to help us do this, but we look at what the demand is. So if you were to have a child care center, how big would it need to be based on your employee base? So we pull together a lot of demographics from the employer to start putting that together. But then we also want to know what's affordability. So I mentioned to you what some of the going rates are in Atlanta. Well, most families can't afford that. So we look at affordability to figure out, how do we make it affordable? How does that employer help subsidize? Are there different tuition strategies that we can use, like scholarship programs and things like that? So that's part of that consulting process. We also talk to them about the space and design. So how big the center needs to be, what's the square footage of interior space as well as exterior for the playground and parking? How many classrooms do we need? How many age groups? And then we talk about the actual operation of the program itself. So I mentioned to you, we definitely customize those for our clients. Most of ours, if they're on a kind of a main campus, they operate standard hours of about 7:30 to about 6 in the evening. For those that are for our frontline workers like healthcare, those are typically operating 13 and a half hours a day so that we can cover that 12-hour shift. And then probably our most unique centers are the ones that we operate for Toyota manufacturing. So we have several centers for them. They're currently building more, and those actually operate 24 hours. And the reason they do that is because they require their employees to migrate through the different shifts every 3 months. And they do that so that they're better cross-trained as well as have the opportunity for a promotion. So they felt like if we're going to require that of our employees, then we need to provide them the same level of support. And so we've got children that are dropped off at 6 o'clock at night by their parents. They go through a regular school day like they normally would. They're on the playground at midnight. They're having their meals throughout the night. And when the parent comes and picks them up at 6 in the morning, they all go home and they go to bed. When we were first approached by this, we brought industry experts in. We brought in child psychiatrists to have them look at it to see if this would work. And it's been a great program and continues to flourish, and the parents love it. So just know that program operation is very much customized to that employer. Lastly, we talk about the budget. So how much are they going to help subsidize the program? And then lastly, that risk, health, and safety. So that's very important that as we're building out that center, we keep all of that in mind. We talk about the access points. We talk about the security to get in there and how we're able to really manage that center and do it at optimal levels. So all of that is part of that key area for managing a child care center. Now, I mentioned to you earlier that Georgia's a great place to be. So there are wonderful tax credits that employers in Georgia can take advantage of. And we do have a lot of centers in Georgia. And honestly, this is why your government gets it. So if you look on the far right, first of all, I'll tell you that's our federal tax credit. So it's up to 25%. And I will tell you that it is currently being reviewed from a federal level, has not been increased for many, many years. And so definitely something where we need to take a look to see if we can enhance that. So that one is up for discussion. I will tell you from a state of Georgia perspective, the tax credits include up to 100% of the construction for the child care center and up to 75% of the employer's cost for operating that center, which is huge. And so I will tell you, between those two tax credits, it pretty much pays for a child care center in the state of Georgia. So there is no cost back to the employer. They're able to write all that off through the tax credits. Now, even better, I will tell you that the Georgia tax credit is currently under review. It has passed the House. It's now waiting for the Senate, and it may possibly go up to 90% of the employer's direct cost. So great news in the state of Georgia. And we definitely recommend that any employer that's looking into this go out and take have their tax division or their tax entity take a look at this and verify. But we know it's being used all across the state and federally, and these are great benefits to have. So the last thing I just wanted to touch on was just share with you some of the employers that we work with. I did try to include some of the folks in the state of Georgia. As I mentioned, these are typically branded for the employer. But behind the scenes, Bright Horizons is actually managing, for example, Tiny Tracks, which is the one that we operate for Norfolk Southern. So all of these are clients that we work with in providing very much a customized center experience. So before we close, I've got one more client I would love to hear from you. This is another manufacturer that we have up north, Vermeer, and they'll tell you a little bit about their experience.
Deep in the heart of rural Iowa, childcare is hard to find, especially for dads and moms with complicated work schedules.
There were stories of women who said they dropped kids off at neighbors at 4:30 in the morning in their pajamas to sleep on a couch.
Being a parent in the manufacturing industry can be busy at times. We work anywhere from 8 hours to 10-hour days, sometimes Saturdays.
Built on a rich history of innovation and invention, Vermeer Manufacturing has transformed the experience of being a working parent. 8 years ago, the family-run company opened Yellow Iron Academy. In partnership with Bright Horizons, the company designed their early education childcare center to work for working parents, especially team members who work on the manufacturing floor.
We open at 5:30 in the morning to make sure that we can cover those first shift employees. We want people to feel like we're a family. We want people to feel that caring culture and make sure that they feel when they come to work, we do everything we can to partner with them.
Doing my job without Yellow Iron and having a facility like this would be a little more difficult.
Working parents at Vermeer enjoy a level of support and convenience that others in the industry covet. A recent Women in Manufacturing survey reported 93% of women and 86% of men ranked on-site childcare as one of their most desired benefits. But Yellow Iron Academy goes way beyond care and convenience, offering high-quality early education as well.
The day is well planned, whether it's going outside, doing STEM-related activities. Even the meal plans are from a dietary standpoint, are very well thought out and planned.
Early on, we wanted this to be a center that just looked different. Looks like a barn. We're bringing kind of an agricultural background, especially being in Iowa, but we also wanted to make it very fun. And so a lot of focus on STEM. We've got, of course, a strong engineering program as well as operations at Vermeer.
Understanding the need to support families with older children, Yellow Iron Academy also offers before and after school care. Vermeer even arranged for the local bus to pick up and drop off at the center.
My hope is that every single person who chooses to work at Vermeer feels like their whole life is better because they chose Vermeer. And every day we're showing up trying to understand what kinds of resources and benefits and experience we can give to help people live a really positive whole life.
Yellow Iron Academy has been a game changer for Vermeer families, but also for the company. The Child Care Center is an investment in a future workforce and has helped Vermeer attract and retain team members, maintain operations during the pandemic, and foster well-being and peace of mind for team members.
I think at the end of the day, we know that we're getting that return. We have employees who can be more engaged at the work site because they're not thinking about where their child is or what the Child Care Center is happening. There's a lot of communication between Yellow Iron and the employee. We just know that it's a benefit.
Great. So that's what I put together for you all today. And Nate, I'll let you check and see if we've got any questions we need to address.
Perfect. Thank you, Deedee. I appreciate the great information and the combination of the practical appeal of from a business perspective, but also from that human perspective too. So I appreciated your approach to this. I see one question in the chat, and I'm not sure if this is a good one for you to tackle, but I'll toss it to you anyway. How aware do you think employers in our state are about the tax credit for childcare facilities?
You know, that's a good question. And I will tell you many times we find it's the best kept secret. So we'll have discussions with employers and, we'll bring that up and they're like, oh, I didn't know anything about that. And so I do have to give them my my little sign that says I'm not a tax advice expert. I said, I'll be happy to provide you the information and all the details of the tax credits and let you verify what I'm telling you, which they do. We actually had Deloitte do it for one of the clients and they 100% agreed. So it is a great benefit, but the honest answer is a lot of people are just not aware. So obviously we're doing what we can. We are going to be doing a special mini conference in the city of Atlanta, end of third quarter, specifically talking about employer-sponsored childcare centers. And some of our clients like Chick-fil-A, Wellstar are going to be speaking and kind of sharing their experiences as well. So we're doing what we can to get the word out, but definitely share it amongst yours as well, because it does make a huge difference in being able to provide this and take advantage of those tax credits.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Question that I have is, I saw many of the businesses you featured on the slide that you're working with are some larger companies like Chick-fil-A or SpaceX. I think the smallest one might have been Emory University. But I'm curious, what offerings does Bright Horizons have to support some of those small to medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Nate. And I will tell you that all the services we provide are scalable. And so a lot of times, depending on the number of employees, actually depends on the budget that you're going to need. So the smaller the company, a lesser budget. So we are able to offer from a cost efficiency perspective. We usually recommend that you have about a minimum of 750 employees in one location for the child care center itself. Otherwise, it may be too small to really see the benefit. Now, that's kind of a slippery slope in Georgia since it's covered through tax credit. So you could actually probably still do it. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're getting your biggest bang for your buck, right? So we typically say, well, you need about 750 employees in one location to be able to get that child care center to work for you.
Okay. But it did sound like you had some other services and options that might be available for businesses, even beyond the child care center itself.
Most definitely. So a lot of our employers take advantage of the backup care and the enhanced family supports just because they do either have smaller workforces or they've got employees that are spread across the US. And so they want to make sure that by offering the service, they've got enough touch points in their organization. And so a solution like that allows them to do that.
Excellent. Well, I'm just going to prod my audience one more time. Any questions for Deedee? Feel free to drop that in the chat, or you can use the raise hand function in your Zoom window to let us know that you'd have a question you'd like to speak out loud.
And thank you to Cherie for dropping my contact information in. Please feel free to reach out and email me. Glad to answer any questions that you have and respond. If you've got an employer in mind, we can definitely set up something. And then, as I mentioned, we are going to be doing that conference later this year. And so that's something that you can inquire about as well.
Great, thank you. And I do see Deborah Pickett on our team has her hand raised. So Deborah, what's your question?
Good morning, Deedee. Thank you so much for sharing this great information. I have spent a lot of my earlier part of my career working with young people. And when you described the evening daycare program for parents who work nights, that's the first time that I've ever heard that. And I'm not sure if I caught what you exactly said about that. I have experience where children have access to those types of programs, but they're sleeping while their parents are working. And then they get up in the morning. There are no activities overnight. And from what I understand, you describe activities overnight. Can you just recap that really quickly for me?
Sure, that's
Thank
something
you.
custom that we built for Toyota. And quite honestly, Deborah, we've had a lot of manufacturers interested in that. Just because of the feedback, we've sponsored focus groups to hear from some of their employees. But basically, for them, we operate their centers 24/7. And so for children that are coming at night, again, 6 p.m. and leaving at 6 a.m., we operate just like if they came at 6 a.m. and left at 6 p.m. So they're going through the exact same educational learning. Obviously, if they're tired, they can sleep. I mean, take naps just like they normally would during the day. They're served 2 meals and 2 snacks just like they normally would. And then they have playground time as well. And so it's something that we're able to do that really best supports that family so that they can then all go home and get some much needed rest. So it works out great for them and continues to be a huge focus for Toyota manufacturing.
That's interesting. And there's no impact to the children who have school like the next day. They're able to just continue on with their schedule.
Yes, so for the school-age children, we operate it a little bit differently based on licensing. So they have a
Okay.
separate room that they sleep in overnight. And so they actually have like dorm beds they sleep in, and then the school bus picks them up in the morning and takes them to school, drops them off at the end of the day. We help with homework, they take showers, put on their PJs, have dinner, go to bed. So school age is a little bit different, Deborah, just because we do need to make sure they're ready for that next school day.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Just realized I was on mute. We have time for one last question, which comes from Adina Chumley, and she asked, the caregivers that work in the work-based childcare sites, do they work for, in this example, Toyota, or do they work for Bright Horizons?
They actually work for Bright Horizons. So they're our employees. It's our training. It's our background checks. We require more background checks and references than the state requires. And so for us to take full liability for the care we're providing, we've got certain measures that have to be met. And again, they utilize our curriculum, our best practices. So all of that falls under Bright Horizons. So they are our employee, but we're managing that center based on what that specific client is looking to achieve. So it's very much a partnership between the two of us, but at the end of the day, they're actually our caregivers.
Got it. Thank you. Well, Deedee, appreciate your time and you sharing your information with us today. Round of applause for Deedee this morning.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much. We encourage you to stay involved with us. Make sure, if you haven't already, to register for our webinar series. If you didn't register, I'm curious how you got here, but do make sure you keep an eye out for any new registration links. Encourage you to sign up for our email digest so that you can stay in the loop on future webinars and other CareerRise happenings. The QR code and link are there on your screen. And then do follow CareerRise on LinkedIn. Lots of really good information there, really inspirational stories, and updates about events, initiatives we have going on coming out of our LinkedIn page. So make sure you subscribe there as well. Webinars coming up for the back half of the year. In July, we'll have a discussion on financial well-being for employees. In August, helping employees navigate life challenges. September, a session on job quality. And then talking about career awareness and promotion for youth in the last quarter. So register now if you haven't done so already. Stay in touch. Look forward to seeing you again next month. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you for spending your day with us. Take care.